Well, the color of money is green, but winning comes at a high price. So will the Astros be willing to go after Alex Bregman for the money he's looking for in the years he wants and bring back Tucker? Oh, and there's other questions we have to answer. Pitching, power bats. You know what? Let's just get into it right now.
Jainer Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talks Astros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok, at Stros411 on X and on Facebook, and at Back to the Bullpen on X, on Instagram, on YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Look, I'm always positive, always Stros.
Guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and check us out. Go ahead and subscribe to us. We're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and we would appreciate your help. All it takes is a few seconds to hit that little subscribe button. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel, you got the football season going, and you can get a big return now on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. So, Brett, before the show on Thursday, my computer just totally blue screened and I had to totally restart it and everything, and like reset it back to factory setting. It took me basically all weekend to get it back to where it needed to be. So I'm glad to be back with you, and thank you for covering for me. But I know that it's going to be hard to replace somebody like Alex Bregman at third base. But the question is, for this show, if the Astros re-sign Alex Bregman, will they be able to make a big splash? And who would that big splash be, or get what position would that be at? So I know that The Athletic has a prediction. I know we were talking about it off air, but I wanted to hear your thought about it. They said that Bregman's contract is likely going to be 7 years, $185.5 million. That sounds a little bit too expensive for Jim Crane, right?
Well, not only too expensive for Jim Crane, but to break a threshold in as far as years. Right. This club's never gone beyond 6. Now, because Alex Bregman's going into his 31st year this next year. If you pay him for 7 years, you're paying him till he's 38. And we haven't had the best experience with players that are on the closer end of 37 on up. And even guys like Justin Verlander have had their struggles this late in their career. So the Houston Astros, I think, though, what keeps them out of the weeds this year is they're able to hopefully offer Alex Bregman a contract that brings him back. And we don't have to worry about Kyle Tucker till next year. And I'll talk about that later, because we'll bring up him and Tucker. Can we sign both of them? But, at the end of the day, it comes down to, what is Alex Bregman willing to tell Scott Boras that he is going to take? What is the floor, and what does he absolutely want? If for him the goal is to get as many years as he can for as much money as he can, then the Astros more than likely might as well exit stage left, because they're just not going to do that. But if emotion and heart and memories and family and being a part of this community means anything to Alex Bregman, then I don't think he demands a contract that length. And I don't know who's going to pay him for that long. That's another thing you have to look at. Who out there, what teams out there fielding this discussion will be willing to go those full 7 years? Who needs an aging third baseman at the age 35, 36? We look at the aging third baseman this last year. They're not playing so hot themselves. So The proof's in the pudding across the league in decline. So hopefully for the Astros, it won't be 7 years. If it is 7 years, I think the Astros are automatically out of it.
Well, if you do the math, that's about $26.5 million per season. So that's less than he's technically making right now. I believe it's about he's making about 30 million per year. I could be wrong, but I think Matt Chapman was making doing 5 years, 151 million. So you definitely got to beat that. So to go an extra 2 years and an extra 20 or $30 million to just kind of get to that same range. I think that they're actually paying Chapman more per years, but I think that Bregman at this point in his career, it's more about basically what you're talking about, the length and how I want to make sure I have security. I want to make sure that, so let's say he gets injured. He wants to have that security. Okay, I'll still have this paycheck. And so, yeah, of course he wants to get a big payday, but at the same time, he does love Houston. And he does have, I don't think he'll stay in Houston just because of his salsa business and everything and his commitments to HEB and everything. But he does have some roots. This is where he's been. Jose Altuve, you know that he's calling him every day. So, hey, Alex, have you decided? Are you coming back to Houston? We want you in Houston. But Altuve has been very vocal about this. But to kind of move on from Bregman, what if the Astros do sign Bregman, which is hopefully, let's just say, somehow 6-year deal? What does that mean about first base? I know that last year they kind of used John Singleton towards the end of the season. You saw them use Victor Caratini, Diaz, a whole combination of players. You got some young players, DeZenzo and Whitcomb, that can also take some reps at first base. I don't see them making any big splashes if they go ahead and re-sign Bregman, including a pitcher that you want. We'll talk about that later. But what are your thoughts about upgrading in first base?
Well, first base, you've got to look at who would be out there. You've got guys like Christian Walker, Wilmer Flores, Carlos Santana, Josh Bell, Rizzo, Alonso, Goldschmidt, Gallo, Santana, O'Hearn, Gurriel. What? Really? He's like 58 years old. But those are the guys that really top the list. And when you get past Josh Bell, you're looking at 20 to 26 plus million per year on their previous AAV, and Goldschmidt, Alonso, and Rizzo. Look, the bottom line is this. Let's just call out the elephant in the room. What is the calling card right now of this World Series? It's home runs. Yes, the Astros have Yordan. Okay. Yes, Jose Altuve is going to get your 20 home runs in a season, but they don't have that power bat, that marquee power bat outside of that. I mean, we saw Kyle Tucker go down, and we know Kyle Tucker is going to 25 to 30, but you don't have that big productive power bat. Can Christian Walker, someone like that, 32, right, 33, can he come in and bring that power, supply that power? Paul Goldschmidt, I wouldn't count on him doing that at this stage of his career. Now, Paul Goldschmidt 6 years ago, I'm a lot more on board with that, but not where he's at. And you only have one of those guys in there that's a lefty. It would be nice to get a guy. Now, Ryan O'Hearn, I mean, he has a club option of $8 million. That guy plays on a really good team. Is there some way you can get him if he doesn't end up back with the Orioles next year? I don't really know that situation enough to really throw his hat in the mix, but they've got to upgrade somewhere. Pete Alonso's really, I mean, the dude's a 900 OPS guy. I mean, he's your guy that can go out there. I mean, he hit tanks in the playoffs. He can hit in the playoffs, something Kyle Tucker has not done the last few playoffs. So who is that power bat? I think they would have to be a power bat, and it would definitely have to be an upgrade. If they did do this, then I think Singleton would be your only backup, and you're not going to have anybody else platooning over there. Because if you're going to pay a guy to come in, you're not going to have a 3-man rotation at first base.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And so we're going to have to continue this conversation in a second. Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to Prize Picks today and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Look, with as few as 4 picks, you can win a lot of money. You can win 100 times your money. Prize Picks has millions of players playing, over 10 million, myself and Eric included, in over 30 states, California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. That's right. They also invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out. If your lineup isn't perfect, you can double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, I can get my money as quick as 15 minutes. That's right. So go to Prize Picks today, download the app, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, and you'll get $50 when you play $5 instantly. It's highly encouraged that you go right now to Prize Picks and listen to me and get Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go ahead, subscribe to us, make us first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check us out. And if you have an Amazon Fire TV stick, you can go to the free channels app, download it, go ahead and search baseball. And you can find us. You can watch us on your big screen. You can watch us on your projector. However you watch your podcast, you can go and check out the Locked On Astros podcast and become an everydayer. So, Brett, what I'm trying to say is if the Astros re-sign Alex Bregman and they want to have a chance at re-signing Kyle Tucker,
right?
I don't see them upgrading first base at all. So
no, right. No, right. I agree with you. You can't have your cake and eat it too here. The only thing now, let's just say the key to signing both Tucker and Bregman would be in that they don't sign Tucker until opening day. 2026, he'll be 29. Okay. You can sign him then, coming off the books, like I mentioned in the short that I put up on the channel earlier. Coming off the books, Jose Abreu still on the books, Rafael Montero still on the books, and Ryan Presley, 14 million, 11 million, and like 16 million. I mean, it's a lot of money. So I'll just say this: don't hold your breath or you'll pass out on Kyle Tucker getting signed this year. The Astros are not going to sign Kyle Tucker if they don't have to sign Kyle Tucker, especially if they want to bring back Alex Bregman. And here's why I think it's more likely that they bring Bregman back than not. Because they don't have a replacement in system like they have. We know this with like a Jeremy Pena. We saw what's happened in center field. Since Springer has been gone, it's been kind of a carousel. Certain guys have filled in admirably at times, but we don't have that marquee center fielder. Now, could we go after someone like a Teoscar Hernandez for another outfield glove? Might he be available? Would he be valuable enough to bring back? I mean, heck, he's going to be getting paid by the Dodgers from 2030 to 2039. So between now and then, who cares who he signs with? I know he doesn't. He's just making more money, just money upon money, right? That's be a nice problem. You know, what job will I have next year? Well, it doesn't matter because in 2030, I'm going to be getting paid for a team I'm not even playing for. But that's what you have to look at is how this carousel is going to turn with the money. Like you said, Tucker, Bregman, and a big first baseman. I mean, that's pie in the sky stuff. That is video game numbers. When like if you want to be a GM and turn off all of like that would be like going to MLB The Show and turning off the monitor on the bad trade thing, where like you offer a trade that's so lopsided that it gets rejected. Well, you've got to turn that off because now you've got money come out the wazoo, and the Astros are going to try to build a winner, Eric. And while we may look at 1 or 2 or 3 players, they're looking at the whole organization, and that's where it becomes a chess match and not just checkers. It's not just a plug and play system.
Yeah, and while we're talking about third base, the Astros officially signed Tony Perez-Chica to be the Astros third base coach. He's
Yes.
also going to be infield coach and run prevention coordinator. So he did on Thursday. You might have talked about that on Thursday's podcast, but I think this may be a good move. I think that Jeremy Pena struggled defensively last year, especially after he was so good defensively. I don't know if it's maybe he bulked up too much or the lack of focus or something, but maybe they can get some better defense out of him. And I think that the Astros, if they do bring back Alex Bregman, it's definitely going to mean you're not going to upgrade at first base. And I hate this. I don't see them bringing back Kikuchi either. The Astros starting pitching depth will be pretty strong.
Well, right. Okay. So I'm glad you mentioned that with Kikuchi. You say no Kikuchi with the question mark, or you're asking the question. Here's my understanding of why I think Kikuchi makes 100% chance. I'm 100%. It makes sense. Okay.
Right.
The Houston Astros have a plethora of pitching now. Like JP France probably isn't going to be ready till mid-season. Okay. 2 or 3 of these guys are coming off Tommy John. No telling how they're going to perform. I think you have enough surplus that you can offer some guys in a trade where there's not a log jam, where you can go out there and trade for. And I don't know for who, for what. I haven't done this scenario. So people come to the show waiting to be like, well, these guys don't know what they're talking about. I haven't examined who they would trade for or what strategic move that would be. But you would obviously offload some of the pitching. You could offload at least 2 guys for like another position player or something like that. But Kikuchi is not going to cost that much. It's not going to take, I think it's a 2-year deal with a 3rd-year player option or club option. And you can pay this guy between $16 and $18 million, which I think is a little bit over what his worth is, or right at where his worth is, or his market value. And that's according to Spotrac. Now, his agents, value of him, but the Astros value of him should be high because he was 9-1 outside of, they could have been 10-0. He could have been 10-0 in those games. And he ended up getting past that 5-inning threshold that he couldn't seem to break through. And I think just with more work and more time in this rotation, Eric, that Kikuchi would be that guy. I think there is a clearer path to re-signing Kikuchi and bringing him back because of his market value or how many years he's going to get. If he was a pitcher up for a 6 to 9 year option, deal, then I say there's no chance. But I think this is a 2 to 3 year guy for pretty much any club out there. Anybody who signs him beyond that, I would be surprised.
Yeah, and you can never have too much pitching depth. So I don't want y'all to get confused. I do want Kikuchi back, but I just think that you can't have everybody. You can't sign everybody back. Verlander likely is gone. I think that if you really want to you want to keep the core 4 together or core 5, whatever it is, and you want to go ahead and re-sign Kyle Tucker next year, you can't invest too much in Kikuchi and all these other players. So they probably have to upgrade at some point. Bullpen. Forrest Whitley, I think, is going to be a big factor next year. You've got to see what some of these young guys can offer. There's some guys that you could bring back cheap. I know Hector Neris, he'll probably come back cheap. He's coming off kind of a down season with the Cubs and the Astros. So there are some ways to save some money elsewhere. But I think to kind of wrap up on this conversation, then we'll move to what happens if the Astros don't sign Alex Bregman in the third segment. But I just think that Bregman would likely be your big splash. Last year, it was Josh Hader. This year, it's likely going to be Alex Bregman. And I think I'm okay with that. And I think that if that's the big move and they stick with what they have, the status quo at first base, the status quo at center field for now, I'm sure a minor leaguer will come up if Chaz and Myers kind of perform like they did this year. So we'll go and continue this conversation next. Guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Astros. Let me tell you about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, FanDuel has a special for you. You can get big returns today. And even when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page that you're placing your bets. Right now, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. The spread for the Texans versus the Colts is minus 5.5 points on the spread for the Texans and plus 5.5 for the Colts. A total money line plus 184 on the Colts and minus 220 on the Texans. So check out FanDuel today, America's #1 sportsbook. And as always, let's go play the game.
Hey guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day, whether it's on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to us. Make us first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check us out. And I just want to say, what happens if this scenario plays out? The Boston Red Sox sign Alex Bregman to play second base. What happens for the Houston Astros? I just picked the team.
Oh. So. Second base, I was like, wait.
Well, they don't need a third baseman, and I don't want him to go to the Yankees. I absolutely don't want him to go there.
I'll tell you what I would do. I would move Devers to second. I would move Devers around. I don't know. That kind of threw me off. If Alex Bregman signs anywhere else, I mean, they're gonna go within the club what they have. I mean, it's gonna be Whitcomb, DeCenzo, Bryce Matthews. I mean, whoever they think can fill that spot at third base. I mean, it is definitely life after Bregman. Life without Bregman looks pretty grim at third base right now. And that doesn't mean that a young player in the system can't step up, right? But you immediately have to move your eyes and your measuring stick away from Alex Bregman and just say, let's just take it one game at a time. Let's take it one series at a time. First month might be rough. By mid-season, whoever's there, do they have a hot bat? Are they making key plays at third? And can they grow into it? And, on-the-job training is very, very is less than ideal for any major league team. But the Astros may not have that option. I don't know. I mean, the only other option you would do is go out there and get someone like a Suarez at third base. If you could, pull them over again, money's the big option. But life without Bregman seems far worse than life with Bregman. Paying Bregman seems far less consequential than not paying Bregman.
Well, that does open the door for you to do more free agency. You can go out and get that first baseman that you want, whether it be Goldie, whether to make a run at Alonso, whether there's Christian Walker. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Astros. I know he's a little bit older, but he wouldn't take that massive deal that guys, Alonso is going to take not only a lot of money, but it's going to take a lot of years to sign him. So I just don't think the Astros have it in them. But Christian Walker, I think, would probably have to take, with his age, I think it would be a 5-year deal because he's kind of a late bloomer. He was supposed to be a star, and then he kind of struggled at first. I mean, he wasn't a bad player, but he was just a baseball player. He wasn't a star like he is now. And in the past couple of years, he's become the star. And so with a late bloomer like this, you can possibly get him on a little bit more friendly deal. You can also possibly be more likely to re-sign Kikuchi, bring back some of the other free agents. So I'm not saying I want Bregman to leave. We're not saying this. We're just looking at life without Bregman. What would that do? What doors would that open? And I think that the Astros will likely take a look at what Shay Whitcomb could do. They did that towards the end of the season a little bit occasionally. I know that you can't look at one game and say, oh, Whitcomb sucks. He basically was handed the keys on that day for third base, and he was a little nervous to drive. And so I think that was a situation where it was like Bregman was saying his goodbyes, and then he's like, oh, crap, this is my job. And so I just don't know if I think there's a lot of pressure on him in that game, but once the pressure is not there, he's going to have to replace Bregman if that situation happens, but he'll have all spring training to deal with it. He'll have all offseason to deal with it, because Bregman, I don't think, honestly, guys, I think it's going to be early signing. I don't think that it's going to go into February. I think that once the World Series ends, maybe within a month, I think Bregman will sign. Don't quote me on that, but I just think that he is one of those free agents that I think once he decides where to go, he's not going to wait around. That's what I'm thinking. That's my opinion.
Right. Now, someone's asking us here what we think about the White Sox sending us Soroka and Robert Jr. in a trade. I don't know who we would trade. But that's something that maybe on a later show, the guys, in the regular season, he was 0-10. But he had a 1.38 whip. He's 17 and 18 overall in his career. He's 27 years old. He was with the Braves, and 2023 he was let's see, what was he, 2-1? Actually, 2019 he was 13-4. We remember when he was on his better years. He's dealt with injury and things like that here and there, but I don't know if that's a guy you get him and couple him with Robert Jr. that would address another issue. But Eric, to go into just more talk about what we're talking about here, I think Jim Crane is going to see that we need Alex Bregman. But I just like, I don't know what gives me this inkling of just thinking this. I don't know why I'm thinking this, but Correa didn't come across as this guy. Springer didn't come across as this guy. Bregman comes across to me as the guy that would say, you know what, let's make another run at it. Altuve and I are close with the guys. I've seen guys leave this place left and right, and I stayed and I won another World Series. I want to do that again. I want to do that with this club. I want to get at least one more ring. So why not do it in Houston? We're already settled here. Yeah, we got our home in Arizona. That's for retirement. We got our second kid on the way. We're endeared to the Houston community. I mean, he just, to me, comes across as a guy like that. I don't think the money is like everybody, you're like, well, he wants security. He's got security. He had $100 million. The guy owns racehorses. He's got money. He comes from a family that was not, they were pretty wealthy. His dad's a lawyer. So it's not like money's been awry in his life or he's missed out on I think he's going to get a big paycheck. I think the big paycheck's going to be here in Houston. But then again, then the fuzzy math starts. Where do we cut corners? Where do we get a discount here or there? And what do we do with all the surplus of pitching? Can we sign Kikuchi? It just, once you sign Bregman, now you're committed to him. Now that then has a domino effect on everything else. And does that benefit the club in the long run, more or less, keeping him around?
Well, going back to Lewis Robert thing, I know that a couple shows ago when I went solo, I think it was Willard told me it was a 6-year deal that he has left, but it's actually 3 years left. 1 year is actually guaranteed. He's making $15 million next year. Then there's a 2026, 2027 team options for $20 million both years. So he is coming off a season where he was injured a lot. He had an 87 plus OPS, 87 OPS plus, which is about average. It's below average baseball player.
Yeah, but average is 100. So
yeah. So he's not coming off the best season. He still had 14 home runs, 23 stolen bases. He still had a decent slugging percentage at 379, I guess. So there's still potential, but he only had 393 at bats that season, batted 224. So I don't think the White Sox will sell low on him, and the Astros just don't have the trade stock that they used to, because of everything that's happened, the winning and the losing draft picks. So I just don't know if they can make any big trades. That's why you saw the Kikuchi trade. That Kikuchi trade hurt, but it should have helped them. But unfortunately, the Tigers just took care of business. So before we end the show, and we do need to talk about Arrighetti. He did make a free throw at the beginning of the Rockets game. It wasn't a swish, but it did bounce around a little bit and go in.
He got the shooter's bounce. He got the shooter's roll. Yeah. It was nice. The Rockets have not started out the best of starts this year. Fernando Valenzuela passed away this last week. And it looks like the Dodgers are motivated. Dude, they're up 2-0 on the Yankees. That's been a wild 2 games.
Scary moment for Shohei Ohtani there with the shoulder.
Yeah, apparently he's okay, but man, wow, him. Freddie Freeman's 1 home run away from tying George Springer in most home runs in consecutive World Series games. George Springer holds a record with 5 starting in 2019, and then 2017, and then 2019 game 1 he got another home run that was 4 straight for him. So there's some interesting things going on around, and you guys are asking us a lot of questions. We can't get to all of them. I promise you we'll keep this up. We'll talk about DeCenzo. We'll talk about other guys and what we think their ceilings are on a later show for sure.
Yeah, definitely. When we do a mailbag episode, go ahead and send us some of these questions, and go ahead and put this in the actual chat after this so we can find this. But guys, that's all we got for this edition of Locked On Astros podcast. Go ahead and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check us out. We'll be back tomorrow to talk more Astros baseball, what's going on as we approach the winter meetings and the GM meetings and everything. So go ahead and make us your first listen, and we'll see you tomorrow. Go Astros.
Go Astros.